How's it, everybody? Good afternoon. Aloha no, aloha kako, 12:30 Hawaiian Standard Time. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to Season 2 of AAF Hawaii Education Series 2 Scoops. My pleasure to be your mediator for today. Each month, AAF Hawaii's 2 Scoop Series will spotlight a different industry leader who will share life and career experiences as well as advice and takeaways learned along the way. And as I'm seeing everybody jumping into the room, thank you very much for being here. Just a reminder to keep things simple. Of course, the chat will be moderated. We encourage you to submit your questions, and you can do that in the chat box for the Q&A part of the program. And so real quickly here, do me a favor, just go ahead and say hi in the chat box so I can make sure that I know that it's working and I can see all of your questions when they do come through. And once again, our moderators will also help with that as well. We are excited for today's special guest joining us from far away. We'll get into that coming up in just a couple of moments. Our special guest today, let me go ahead and get into the right screen here, is an award-winning producer and a luminary in production, post-production, digital concert series, brand strategy. Let's see here. And branded series. Hailing from Manila in the Philippines, she embarked on a Hollywood odyssey, contributing to 19 Marvel Studio films, from Iron Man 2 to Avengers Endgame, earning accolades like the Gold Clio for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 and Silver Tellies for Doctor Strange and Thor Ragnarok. After 16 years in Los Angeles, including 9 as a Marvel Studios executive, she returned to the Philippines to champion local talent globally. As View Philippines head of originals, she crafted a chart-topping 18-episode series showcasing her commitment to fostering regional excellence. Collaborating with Korean and Singaporean filmmakers, she is at the forefront of View's upcoming originals and branded series. But that's not all. She owns a local marketing and VFX company, bridging commercial work nationally and internationally. This visionary producer is rewriting the narrative, seamlessly blending Hollywood expertise with the passion for showcasing Filipino talent on the global stage. That is a resume. Ladies and gentlemen, joining us from the Philippines today, we want to say welcome to our special guest today, Corrina Vistan. Corrina, aloha.
Aloha. Hi. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you. First of all, tell us what time it is in Manila.
It is 6:30 in the morning.
Wow. Thank you for getting up early to be with us today. Just a reminder for all of our friends that are with us, go ahead and submit your questions into the chat. Our moderators are standing by. Corrina, I want to start with this. What motivated you to transition from your successful career in Hollywood to return to the Philippines and focus on cultivating local talent?
Really, it was more of a personal decision. I think I've been working for Marvel for about 9 years, and my husband is a cinematographer and works on set a lot. So he's actually out traveling for work about 6-7 months of the year. So between my busy schedule with Marvel and his demanding schedule, we really kind of wanted to go back to the Philippines so our son would be kind of closer to his grandparents and this little village that can help him, not literal village, but like a family village that can kind of, help him with the cousins, that he grows up with more of a family atmosphere. And with me kind of like slowing down with work and just spending more time with him. So it was really more of a personal decision rather than a professional. And everything that kind of blossomed professionally since then, since we moved, was just kind of a beautiful thing that happened that I hadn't expected. It wasn't because I was trying to make a decision professionally or navigating my professional life. It was really more for personal, and everything else was just a bonus. And it was a nice coincidence. It was a nice happenstance.
Could you share some insights into the differences you've observed between working in the Hollywood film industry versus the entertainment industry in the Philippines?
I really think that, at the end of the day, Hollywood has, been the gold standard globally. It's America is the country that has exported successfully all the entertainment that it creates. And so, but also it's a, 100 or so years that America's been doing it. And so in so many ways, they've really kind of really set the standard. I think in the Philippines, we're still at a younger stage, where filmmakers are still starting to develop their voice. And I think that there's been a lot that we learned from. I grew up watching American films. And so there's a lot that we really did kind of learn from growing up and learning from how Hollywood does it. But I think that at the end of the day, there's a lot of creativity. I was pleasantly surprised at the amount of creativity that Filipinos have. And I think it's just a matter of really kind of developing that and cultivating that even more. So I feel like all the Philippines need is a little bit more time, the way that America has had a lot of time to kind of export and develop that craft.
Now, how do you approach integrating Filipino culture and storytelling into the content that you produce for a view, while still appealing to that, outside audience, outside of the Philippines, that global audience?
I think that the themes that I try to create, I would like it, and the goal is always to try to have it be a universal story, whether it's about a female chef trying to climb up the ladder. It's about a woman who's successful in her career but isn't married and gets pressured by society to try to get married. I think those stories are universal, that anybody in any country could relate to that. Professionally, personally, those are their stories as well. But I think what I'd like to integrate more is in the language and the culture of food that the Philippines can offer, so that I feel like if you're a Filipino, no matter where you are in the world, that would be something that you would kind of embrace. Of that's my culture, that's my story. But at the same time, if you're not Filipino, it would be interesting for you to kind of understand the Filipino culture, to go like, oh, their culture is not that different from mine, and oh, that's really interesting. What are they eating? What are how do they do things over there? So I think that that's the blend that I like to kind of give and do when we create our shows.
Do you think that there becomes a time, in different cultures or different accents of the world? Like, I know that, sometimes German or Russian, either accents or maybe parts of their culture, they have an alien. But if you really look at the alien, they're kind of modeling this culture, that culture. Is there more of that? Do you think that from the Philippines that will get into the mainstream of motion picture and entertainment?
I think so. I think so. In Avengers Endgame, I think there was spoiler alert, but for anyone who's seen it, right? There's this scene where Thanos just kind of like rests and relax, and the place that where they took the plates from was from the Banawe rice terraces in the Philippines. And so that's supposed to be kind of like outer space and everything. And so I think that Philippine culture is really kind of already injected, and I just don't think it's as talked about yet. I think a good friend of mine at Marvel, he used to work at Marvel too, Anthony Francisco, he's Filipino. He really modeled Groot. And so there's a lot of Filipino elements in Groot. So I do think that it's people do insert cultures from different parts of the world. And I think it's just really interesting that sometimes it just goes past us. But yes, Filipino culture, it's definitely injected there.
I never thought of that. I got to go back and watch now. So I'm going to be watching with a different eye. That's awesome. As someone who's experienced in both production and brand strategy, how do you balance artistic integrity with the commercial goals of branded series content?
It really, how can I say this? I think that there is, at the end of the day, the story will prevail. And so even if you create something that is, supported by brands, nobody wants a bad show. Nobody wants to make a bad show. Nobody wants to watch a bad show. And so I think first and foremost is creating a good show, and really having a really strong story to that. And then it's really kind of at the end of the day, like the participation or the collaboration with the brands is there to it's there to kind of just enhance. It's there to kind of show to people, and really I think successfully, if you're able to do it successfully, it's integrating that brand with the story. So if in our upcoming show, it's about the world of chefs and they like to cook, and we have a brand that's part of it. And so in order to kind of organically integrate it, it's in the kitchen, and you see the brand in the kitchen all the time. And so I feel like at the end of the day, you'll see the brand there, but at the end of the day, people are going to gravitate towards the story and the characters, and I think that's always going to be the priority.
With your experience at Marvel Studios, what lessons or skills from that time do you find the most valuable in your current role?
I was there for 9 years, so I really did learn a lot. And it was just almost a life changing experience for me. But I would say that if there was a skill that I was most thankful for that I gained when I was working there, it's really developing the editing eye. I would for years I would just take notes on the what my bosses would see, and editing notes, and really, like, for years just learning to see what they see, which doesn't happen overnight. And so I think I just realized that when I eventually grew with the company later on, that I had developed that kind of editing eye as well. And I think editing is my favorite process in filmmaking, just because it's another opportunity to write the story. It's the second phase of writing. And sometimes when you're not able to, when you're short on time in shooting, or you don't have enough budgets, editing really saves the day, and really kind of just makes it so much better. There's so many things that you can quote unquote cheat, right, to really kind of still save the story and salvage the story. And so I'm a huge fan of editing, and I don't think I would have had that perspective and that eye if I wasn't at Marvel.
No, I can't even imagine watching movies with your eye, because you will see a whole bunch of things that nobody would even think of, but you would catch it.
Um, well, there's a lot of good movies out there, and there's a lot of seamless editing. So
We,
yeah.
we will come back to that. I will ask you about your favorite movies from an editor's point of view. That's actually a good question. So let me put that on the side for just a moment. How do you see the future of digital content series evolving, especially in that Southeast Asian market?
I think for the longest time, as even when I had moved back, broadcast was still very, very prevalent. And now I think people are starting to, especially with the pandemic, it accelerated the whole digital presence in not only in the Philippines but in Southeast Asia. And I think now there's what's really been happening in Southeast Asia and the Philippines is that it's becoming a partnership with broadcast and digital. What's on broadcast goes on digital. What's on digital can go on broadcast as well. But I do think that it's really just another opportunity for people's voices to be heard, whether that in whatever medium that could be, whether it's TikTok, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on any of the streaming services that we have. I think it's just more a really great opportunity for more voices to be heard and different platforms to air it out. And
Real quickly here for the room, Christine and Larry, I see your questions. I will get to them. Don't worry, but I see them there, and thank you very much for putting those in. Could you share some insights into the role of marketing and VFX in enhancing the quality and impact of both commercial and original content?
um, both of them are so crucial, and I think as I'll start with marketing first. Honestly, with marketing, you can make as good of a show or a good as a movie as you can, and it can be the perfect movie. But if nobody knows about it, it doesn't get seen. And so it's really, really absolutely crucial to not, and I think that that's the challenging aspect with marketing these days is with social media, there's a lot of, I mean, for lack of a better term, noise that everybody's attention span is just all over. And it's harder to get people's attention to say, watch our movie or watch our show. So I think that really now it's really kudos to people who market shows and market films and are able to kind of make things trend because it's not an easy thing to do. And I think that what I think though, it brings out the best in creativity because you have to be really creative in terms of how do I get people's attention, in terms of like saying, hey, we have a show and this is good and you should watch it. And so it really, really challenges people to think of the most creative ways on spreading the word to everybody about it. And then in terms of visual effects, I think that when you think visual effects, you think Hulkbuster and the Incredible Hulk and really really complicated VFX shots. But it's not just that. I think VFX nowadays in most shows, it could be roto, it could be cleanup, it could be taking out reflections in a mirror. It really is something necessary nowadays that really helps principal photography too, because sometimes you're in principal photography and you don't have enough time and there are things that slip. VFX is really there to kind of just help you out later on to go like, no, no, we got that. Don't worry about spending 2 hours trying to clear that reflection in the mirror. We can kind of fix that for you in post. So I think that VFX is necessary nowadays for most shows, especially for what the range it can do.
We have a lot of students, also college students that watch this program too. What key lessons have you learned throughout your career, throughout your journey? Let's go, from the beginnings in Manila to your executive role at Marvel Studios, and now as head of originals for View Philippines.
I think it's important to note that trends will come and go. But it's important as a filmmaker that you should know your voice and what your voice is, and you should stick to it, because I think that you have to develop that voice and what you want to do and the statements you want to make in the films that you want to do. I think that if you follow trends of let's make this movie or let's make this genre of movie because that's what's popular, I don't think that will really last. You have to know your voice, your style, and the kind and the quality of films you want to make. And those are what you call the trendsetters. Why follow the trend when you can set the trend?
That's awesome. As someone who's worked across different cultures and industries, what lessons have you learned about adaptability and cultural understanding in the workplace?
It's easy, and it's really funny because when I first moved back to the Philippines, there were adjustments that I had to make after working in the U.S. for so long, and I think it's really important to just kind of understand where everybody's coming from. It's really easy to go to a different country and judge the way they do things, but you really have to look at it by this is their perspective, this is how they do things, and really kind of embrace it, and just know that like every culture in every country is different and no one really does it better. It's just a different way of doing things. And so I'd like to share that the one thing with the Philippines and the Filipinos is that we're just a fun nation. So, so sometimes if we don't get things on time, we're notoriously late with things. And that can be very frustrating sometimes on set. But at the end of the day, it's what endeared me to the crew, because at the end of the day, even if we've worked a 15-hour day, everyone still has a smile on their face. No one's complaining. Everyone's happy to work. And so I think I just kind of embrace that and just think that that's such a beautiful trait with Filipinos.
That's awesome. For those of you that are throwing your comments, and all the comments are coming quick, some of them are comments and some of them are questions, and both are good. We'll get to those coming up after this one here, or at least we'll start to drift in that general direction. For those that are college students in the room, in a competitive field like entertainment, how can they, college students, set themselves apart from their peers and make a memorable impression on potential employees?
I think I'm going to kind of just put that in the context of where I work, right? In filmmaking, if you want to, work on set, work in the post world, or even if you want to pitch an idea to a studio, I think that it's really really important to kind of really know who you are, make that impression of who you are, what you do, and what you can contribute. To that company, how beneficial you're going to be to that company. And in terms of like pitches to studios, I think that good ideas are prevalent. There's a lot of people with a lot of good ideas, but I think the most important thing when you're a filmmaker and you're pitching to a studio is just as important as the good idea is your perspective and how you tell that story. I think that, Ryan Coogler, when he did Black Panther, anybody could do a story about a prince from Africa. But I think that the things that he put in there in terms of like the stories about African Americans in America and the troubles that they have to go through, that's the perspective he brings, and that's more interesting. So I think that if you're a filmmaker, you're wanting to be a filmmaker, and you have this idea that you want to pitch to studios, always never forget the perspective you bring to that story.
All right, Corrina, we're going to go to some of the questions and comments here from those that are joining us today. First of all, Larry says, "Yes, so cool. Groot is Filipino." I think there's a lot of pride there in that comment there. Some of these questions may apply, and I'll let me know if they do or not. Was the Lola scene in Spider-Man No Way Home your idea?
It was not, but Ned is Filipino, so of course it would make sense that the Lola is Filipino.
All right, there you go. Damien Grad in the house. Yeah. Do you ever have challenges encouraging Filipino culture without appropriating it?
Um, not really. I think appropriating it. I think it's different when you're. Oh, that's a really good question. No, I don't really have those challenges only because it's important to really kind of get the opinions of a lot of Filipinos. I think that that's the thing. When people think filmmaking, it's obviously easy to think of, your geniuses like Martin Scorsese or Quentin Tarantino, where they do everything, right? Where they write, they direct everything. But I think that for most filmmakers, it is a collaborative process. When you shoot it, when you build the sets, when you edit it, it's a collaborative process. You're always working with everybody. So when you talk about culture and the Filipino culture, always know too that it's a collaborative process. There are other Filipinos that you can get your suggestions and your ideas from, and see what they think, whether they're Filipinos in the US or the Filipinos in the Philippines. Just get people's opinion and see how they feel about it. And I think that could feel more authentic when you consider other Filipinos opinions on things.
Mm. Do you think the major studios will change their production paradigm and approval process overhead after seeing the success of Godzilla minus one?
I hope. I hope, maybe. I don't know. I'm so sorry. I haven't seen Godzilla minus one yet. So I've seen the Apple series, but I haven't seen the theatrical release. But I think that what's really happening is that in the last maybe 7 8 years, since movies like Crazy Rich Asians came out, it's made the world of entertainment a lot smaller. Hollywood has become a lot smaller, wherein Hollywood has been willing to tell stories from across the globe, and I think that that is really encouraging. And and I think that that's really encouraging, and I think that it's really inspiring to be able to tell stories from everywhere and not necessarily just from Los Angeles or New York. I love the fact that, Crazy Rich Asians was a blockbuster film where the whole movie was took place in Singapore. So I feel like with movies like that, but with also with different streaming platforms that highlight different shows. Money Heist is a show from Spain. Dark is a show from Germany, and yet these are all shows that have become so appealing. And don't get me started on the Korean entertainment industry too. They've reached out across the world. So I feel like I think we're living hopefully in a really great time where people are celebrating stories from all over the world.
With your new project, Secret Ingredient, what was it like working with and portraying so many different cultures?
So I think so just a little setting to that. So I do have a new series coming out on View, shameless promotion. But it has a Korean actor, Lee Sang-hon, who was in Exo Kitty, and we had a very famous Filipina actress, Julia Barreto, and a very famous Indonesian actor, Nicholas Saputra. So it was really, really exciting to be able to do this cross-cultural collaboration of celebrating Korean, Indonesian, and Philippine cultures all in one show. So that's the highlight of it that we're very, very proud of. But at the same time, it was also trying to get the cultures right. I can weigh in on the Philippine culture, no problem. But when we were writing and shooting Korea or Indonesia, we really wanted to make sure we got it right. We didn't want to make any mistakes with this because we wanted to kind of accurately represent the cultures.
Um, Let me see here. Okay, what are your thoughts on the future of entertainment?
Um, I think it's really what I had stated earlier. I feel like stories are coming from all across the world, whether those are series or films that we watch on our streaming platforms, or whether that's even short form content that you see on TikTok. I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, and I watch different stories that people, that people create, and they're 30 seconds, 10 seconds. So I do feel like I'm sure there are. I do feel like I love that the world gets to share its stories nowadays, whether it's a series or just something that they share on social media.
I'm going to kind of change the subject here for a moment. Give me three of movies that you thoroughly enjoyed recently and why.
I am not caught up with the Oscars, but I just recently I love Barbie, Oppenheimer, who didn't, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Does it have to be movies? Can I say series too?
Sure,
Can I say?
absolutely. Definitely.
I love The Bear, and it was definitely an inspiration for us when we were shooting our chef show. And gosh, what did I Oh, Shrinking on Apple Plus with Jason Segel and Harrison Ford.
Nice. What would you tell someone who is trying to break into the industry? I know you mentioned having a POV, but anything else?
Um, Grit, just good old fashioned grit. Just keep trying, keep working at it. It doesn't come easily. It doesn't. It really doesn't. And you just have to keep pushing at it.
How many different projects are you balancing and how do you keep them all together?
There's things that are in development, and we just wrapped production, but and I'm in post for my new series, so there's definitely a lot to juggle. But again, I feel like this field is so collaborative that you do rely on so many people to kind of help juggle all these balls in front of you. So there is a lot, but again, like I feel like I'm just grateful to have the opportunity to be able to juggle so many projects at once.
We're almost through. So any last call for questions here. This one from me. Taking into consideration that Hawaii is always trying to up its game as far as what it does for the entertainment industry and how it's involved, do you have any advice, seeing how things are Southeast Asia with what you're doing now currently and in the past? Do you have any advice for Hawaii's film industry?
I mean, I think that it is such a beautiful culture already, and we've seen it time and time again in several films. And I think that just being able to be proud of that culture and highlighting that culture is something that the world wants to see. So again, it's the same thing. I feel like more filmmakers need to really be highlighted and be given a spotlight in Hawaii. I feel like there shouldn't just be one hub for filmmakers. There shouldn't just be like, oh, let's all go to LA because we want to make films there, or let's all go to New York to make films there. I feel like we should be able to make stories of to wherever we are, whether that's in Hawaii or that's in the Philippines. And I think that Hawaiian filmmakers, I'm sure, is able to bring in a really good perspective about the culture and the place. And I feel like staying true to your voice and really just, I feel like the world needs to listen more to Hawaiian filmmakers, and really kind of we should shine more of a spotlight to Hawaiian filmmakers, because again, like, it's such a beautiful culture.
Filmmakers like James Serino, right?
Yes, filmmakers like James.
Sorry, my phone went off right as soon as I said that. Hey, let me see here. Oh, this is a good question. With so much that you are juggling, what do you do to unwind and have fun?
I spend time with my family.
Okay. Do you get to do that a lot, or is it far and few between?
Not a lot. Well, I try, but just spending time with your family, my family, is enough to kind of. They don't talk about work, so it's so it's nice. Otherwise, it's just all work talk. So.
Got it. Larry, that's an interesting question. Wow. How did you find your voice?
I think that's a fantastic question too. Honestly, I didn't have a. I felt like I didn't have a voice for the longest time, and it was only really when I left Marvel that I realized I had one. And I go, oh, this is the stories I want to tell. And because not because of anything, but because sometimes I feel like when we're too deep in the grind and we have to do so many things, you kind of don't really hear your voice, or you don't really think about things. And I think that, and that's for the longest time when I was living in LA, juggling work, being a parent, and doing all the errands and doing all of the checklists of all you have to do every day and in life. You really kind of have to, you almost mute your voice and your perspective on things, because you have to feel like, I got to get this done, get this done, get this done. But the thing is, it's sometimes you just have to take time for yourself and realize that you do have a perspective on things, and you really have to kind of think and analyze so many aspects in your life. And I felt like I actually, when I took time off and just really kind of slowed my pace down, is when I realized what stories I wanted to tell, or what I wanted, or for lack of a better term, I'm sorry for being so cheesy, but a purpose. It's finding your voice is the purpose. Is what's your purpose? What do you wanna do? What stories do you want to tell? So that's really where it came from. It's just try to take a break from the mundane sometimes and just listen to your voice.
I've got two more questions for you, and then unless we get more in the chat, which appears here, tell the story of how you began. It's powerful. How did you get into that Marvel?
How I got into Marvel? It was the 08, 09 recession. Everybody was losing jobs. And I had the company that I was working for, which was a development production company, had shut its doors, like most other boutique production companies. And I just went out there, and it was really hard because, I was sending my resume out 30 times a day to different companies, and you're right there with other people trying to look for work. And somehow somebody had told me Marvel was hiring. And at that time, they literally just released Iron Man. And so, but of course, I was, still really excited to meet them. And I interviewed with my boss, with who was going to be my boss. And it was interviewing, it was meeting 8 different people, going to Marvel several times within several weeks, meeting different people, interviewing me. They even made me take a test, which is hilarious. Like they made me watch a video and said like, okay, name the 3 things that's missing in this video. And a job interview is already nerve wracking as is, and then having to make me take a test. And somehow miraculously, I passed that test. And then I think what really kind of helped me get the job was that, it's telling my boss that um, I had set experience. And I think that when I had interned and PA'd a lot on set. And I think that when you're on set, the environment in a production set really does kind of sharpen you in so many ways. You learn to hustle, you learn to be, you learn to kind of think outside the box to get things done. And I think fortunately he saw that I was kind of crafty in terms of like what I could contribute with joining his team. And then I got it, but it was a long wait. I think I waited about 5 weeks before I knew I got the job.
Wow. Awesome. Real quick here, we've been talking story with Corrina Vistan, View Philippines head of originals and award-winning producer and luminary in production, post-production, digital content series, brand strategy, and branded series. Well, I'm going to give you a last couple of moments here to give some closing words to everybody in the room.
Um, Thank you for having me. And I think right now, I think for based on just what I was telling you about, like how I was able to get into Marvel. I think the perspective I came out of after working for Marvel and now working for View is that when I hire people, it's always good to kind of remember that you've got good schools are always a plus, but at the end of the day, we want to see like hard work and grit. And so, I guess for other people or who feel like they don't have as fancy of a school as other people, always know that at the end of the day, people hire you for what you can contribute and the hard work and the grit that you can bring to the job. And so I think at the end of the day, whether it's, you're applying for a job, you're already working on set, you want to be a filmmaker, the hard work is really what counts, what really matters.
Once again, we want to thank Corrina for being with us today. If people want to follow you, social media, where do they go?
At Corrina Vistan.
Okay. And if anybody wants more information on your newest releases, on what's in post-production with View, how do they get that?
They can follow View Philippines for all our shows. And View Philippines is unfortunately not available in the US, but if you happen to be in any of the Asian countries, you can go on the platform and check out our shows, our newest show being Secret Ingredient.
Or if you have VPN. Anyway, so okay, there you go. Thank you so much for being our guest here today. And thank you for sharing all of your knowledge. And we appreciate not only that, but we applaud you for what you do as a woman, as an executive, as a voice for Filipinos and for people that just want to work hard. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.